Shalom, I hope you all are doing well. I am blessed and I'm back again with a quick video. Leviticus chapter 19, verses 17 through 18 reads, Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt not in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am Yahuwah. This commandment consists of several key instructions. One is do not hate your brother in your heart. This prohibits harboring resentment or secret hatred against fellow brothers and sisters. Number 2, you shouldn't rebuke your neighbor. If a fellow brother or sister is in sin, it is a duty to correct them with love rather than allowing them to continue in wickedness. Number 3, Israelites are commanded not to seek revenge or hold grudges against one another. This is the foundation of righteousness for brotherhood and was instituted by Yahushua as one of the greatest commandments. Matthew chapter 22, verses 36 through 40 reads, Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Listen to what Yahushua said. Yahushua said unto him, Thou shalt love Yahuwah, thy Elohim, with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. For those of you who may not know, in this context, thy neighbor is not speaking of a person next door or in another nation of people. The neighbor that Yahushua was speaking of were fellow Israelites. As you can clearly see here in Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 18, where Yahushua was clearly referring to thy neighbor as being a fellow Israelite. And we know Yahuwah mean business with this commandment because he signed it at the end with his signature saying, I am Yahuwah. Why do you think Yahuwah would have to make brotherly love a commandment? Why do you think Yahushua expressed brotherly love? Because it was a core part of Israel's covenant with the Most High, and it would be key in restoring the nation of Israel. Yahushua's teachings and actions were rooted in the love of the fellow brethren, righteousness and unity, which Israel had lost due to sin and transgression. What does it mean to hate thy brother in thy heart? And why did Yahuwah have to make it a commandment not to do it? Think about it. Why did he have to make it a commandment for us not to do it? You see, this is a hatred that is more than just outward actions. This focuses on an internal hatred, meaning a secret grudge or bitterness or envy against a fellow brother or sister. But let me just say this on the flip side of things, because I don't want you to think I'm saying that we can all just be one big happy family, because there are hateful, malicious, and wicked Israelites. So while Leviticus commands us not to hate our fellow brothers and sisters in our hearts, the Bible also teaches us to use wisdom when dealing with malicious or wicked individuals, including fellow brothers and sisters. And here's some pretty clear verses on that. Proverbs 22:24 through 25 says, Make no friendship with an angry man. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. Listen, if a fellow brother or sister is constantly bringing strife, wickedness, or rebellion, it is wise to separate from them. If a fellow brother or sister is constantly bringing strife, wickedness, or rebellion, it is wise to separate from them. This is not the meaning of hating them, but rather recognizing that their influence could corrupt you or possibly destroy you. His or her anger can influence us, leading us to sin or fall into destructive behavior. These verses are warning us not to associate with such a person because it can cause us to adopt their ways, putting your soul at risk. It can also affect you emotionally. Constant exposure to rage and hostility can drain you emotionally, filling you with stress, anxiety, and frustration. We must use discernment and choose wisely who we're going to associate with, because there are, in fact, wicked Israelites. Being around someone who's full of wrath, envy, that corrupts your mindset, making you more reactive and less discerning in your own actions. You're going to constantly be reacting to their corrupt mindset. So yes, the Most High does warn us about the dangers of close ties with those who lack self-control. Their influence can actually entangle us in their destruction. So we must use wisdom and discernment when deciding who we're going to have in our circle and associate ourselves with. Let's take a look at the 6 things that Yahuwah says he do hate. He said, 7 are an abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and a heart that devise wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speak lies, and he that sow discord among brethren. We should never wonder why we're suffering the curses of Deuteronomy 28. Yahusha warned that a divided house would fall. This is why brotherly hatred and strife among Israelites led to captivity and curses. Instead of working together, our people turned against each other, just as they're doing today, making us weak. Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 19 says, "He loved transgression that love strife, and he that exalt his gate seek destruction." He loved transgression that love strife. Those who love arguments, fights, and drama are leading themselves to destruction. The Most High's judgment will come upon those who refuse to stop causing problems among their own people. He loved transgression that love strife, and he that exalt his gate seek destruction. Those who love arguments, fights, and drama are leading themselves to destruction. And the Most High is very patient. He will allow us to go up very high with our wickedness so that we can come down very low. And it may not be today, and it may not be tomorrow, or even the next year. But at some point, the Most High's judgment will come upon those who refuse to stop causing problems among their own people. This was a commandment for us to love our fellow brethren. Now, one thing we all know is that we must forgive to receive forgiveness. We learned that in Christianity. That's one of their biggest rules, is to forgive. In Matthew chapter 6, it says, "For if we forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." In Christianity, this means that someone can wrong you over and over and over, and you just keep forgiving them and being in their presence. But that's not what the Bible teach. You can forgive someone who trespass against you and make the healthy decision to distance yourself and not hang with them anymore. There's a saying that makes plenty of sense. It's not found in the scriptures, but you've heard it before. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This speaks to being cautious and discerning. The idea is that if someone deceives you or wrongs you once, they bear the guilt. But if you allow them to do it again, it becomes your responsibility for not learning from the first experience. And depending on who it is and what the situation is, Some people may get more than just one chance, but the point is not to let the situation continue. Proverbs 22:3 says, "A prudent man foresee the evil and hide himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." Let's read that again. "A prudent man foresee the evil and hide himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." So a wise person learns from experience and avoids being deceived or hurt again. But a foolish person ignores the warning signs and keeps falling for the same tricks. What a powerful proverb or lesson about wisdom and discernment. A wise person sees danger ahead and avoids it. So the Most High has given us the ability to see danger ahead. And if we see it ahead, we can avoid it. But a foolish person ignores the warning signs and suffers the consequences, in which is the punishment. And this applies to all areas of life, whether dealing with deceitful family members, toxic relationships, bad financial choices, or wicked influences. If a person in your life right now has a history of lying, backstabbing, or causing problems, don't ignore the warning signs. If someone has hurt you before, don't blindly trust them again. Protect yourself spiritually and emotionally. This can mean creating distance from toxic family members or avoiding unnecessary conflicts. If someone is constantly negative, manipulative, or deceitful, it is wise to step back rather than to get caught up in their drama. In Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 12:10, it says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rust, so is his wickedness." So just because someone acts nice for a while doesn't mean they've changed. In order not to continue making repeated mistakes, you must evaluate the person's behaviors and deal with it honestly and accordingly. If you loaned a person money in your family who never paid you back, don't keep giving them money expecting a different outcome. If someone betrayed your trust, don't let them get close enough to do it again. Wisdom is a form of protection. It is not wicked to guard yourself from those who have proven themselves to be deceitful or dangerous. You must see the warning signs, move wisely and not emotionally, protect your peace and well-being. Because if someone has already taken advantage of you once, you definitely should learn from it and don't let them deceive you again. The Bible teaches us that wisdom and discernment are key to avoiding deception and manipulation in relationships. Don't allow the same people who have hurt you to gain access to your trust and resources again. And I'm not saying that we can't trust anyone, but we need to trust with discernment. Because trusting people is good, but we need to make sure that they have proven themselves trustworthy over time. Don't be quick to give away your trust without understanding their character. You may be wondering, how did we get here from brotherly love to this point? Well, the principles of discernment, trust, and wisdom tie deeply into the concept of brotherly love in the Bible. Let me tell you how. Brotherly love, as commanded in the Bible, is not blind or naive. It's about genuinely caring for others and looking out for their best interests. Love, in its purest form, does not mean ignoring harmful behaviors or enabling someone to harm you or others. Instead, true love often involves setting boundaries and making wise decisions to protect both your well-being and that of the one you love. For example, Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 3 teaches that a wise person foresees danger and takes steps to avoid it. When it comes to family or brethren, this wisdom may mean keeping distance from someone who has repeatedly shown malice, even though you may still love them. But to ignore harmful behaviors is not the definition of what love is. Love involves setting healthy boundaries and making wise decisions. One of the top curses of the so-called black families today is to allow family members to remain toxic in the family. Did y'all know that when toxic behaviors are not addressed, they become normalized? And the family member who's engaging in them may continue their harmful actions without facing the consequences. This leads to repetitive cycles of harm where the person never learns from their mistakes or has an opportunity to change. And without accountability, their toxic behavior may become a permanent feature of the family dynamic. Do you guys understand how bad that is? Unchecked toxicity damages mental and emotional health. Families should be a source of support and love, not a source of mental pain or trauma. So the Bible tells us to live in peace and love with one another. But that peace and love do not involve ignoring sin or harmful actions. In Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 17, it instructs us to address wrongs within the community, including family, not to ignore them. It says that if a brother or sister sins against you, you are to confront them lovingly. If the issue is unresolved, it may require involving others to restore the relationship. Matthew 18:15 through 17 reads, "Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more. Then if in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church or the assembly. But if he neglect to hear the church or assembly, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican." So whatever the issue is should not be ignored, and other family members should not join in enabling or tolerating toxic behavior. Instead, addressing the issue directly is critical for the well-being of everyone involved. So it sounds like we need to be addressing these issues head on. It's our responsibility to take a course of action and to face them head on rather than ignore it. This could involve having difficult conversations, confronting the person who is behaving toxic, and discussing how their actions are impacting the family. Because avoiding confrontation or pretending the problem doesn't exist only allows the negative behavior to persist, which can lead to even more harm. Proverbs chapter 27:5 simply says, "Open rebuke is better than secret love." Open rebuke is better than secret love. What does this mean? Confronting the issue can be painful, but it is the most loving and healthy approach to maintaining family harmony and protecting each other from continued harm. Open rebuke is better than secret love. I mentioned how it's important that other family members do not support or enable toxic behaviors by remaining silent. Yes, that's a problem. Or siding with the wrongdoer. This can lead to complicity in the toxic actions and can fuel the cycle of dysfunction. Here's another simple verse in Proverbs chapter 1:10. It reads, "My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not." If sinners entice thee, consent thou not. This warns us to not be led astray by others when they are doing wrong. This is a warning not to be complicit or encourage destructive behaviors, even if others in the family are doing so. So who should the responsibility of addressing the issue fall on? Who should address the toxic behavior? Of course, the person who notices and who's aware of it. The Bible teaches us that when we see wrong, we should address it or we should correct it. However, there is an important balance. This confrontation should be done in love, respectfully, aiming for restoration rather than punishment. Family members who notice the toxic behavior need to be brave enough to speak up and refuse to participate in any enabling behavior. This might mean standing up for others, setting boundaries, or actively intervening when toxic behavior is present. These are healthy rules not just for a single household, but the entire family or nation of Israel. As previously stated, sometimes in families, toxic behaviors become normalized over time, and that has happened in the nation of Israel, in the house of Israel. If everyone else quietly accepts the toxic behavior or doesn't take a stand, it can make the wrongdoer feel validated and continue the behavior. Romans chapter 12:9 says, "Let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil. Cleave to that which is good." This tells us that love does not involve tolerating evil, but actively opposing it. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in here just for the people who may not know this, but if toxic behavior is not confronted, it can be passed down from generation to generation. Children raised in dysfunctional households may repeat the same toxic behaviors in their own families, believing that it's normal. So the Bible speaks of generational consequences when people refuse to turn from sin. However, this cycle can be broken when family members take a stand against toxicity and choose to build a healthier foundation. But by not addressing toxic behavior, families unintentionally empower the person engaging in it. Without consequences, the toxic family member continues their harmful actions, believing they are justified in their behavior. And we see this in Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 15, where it says, "He that justify the wicked and he that condemn the just, even they both are an abomination to Yahuwah." This means that by excusing or ignoring toxic behaviors is just as harmful as participating in it. Holding people accountable is necessary for true change and healing. So, when toxic behavior goes unchecked, it damages mental and emotional health of family members. And this is the things that people can experience: anxiety or depression from the constant stress, low self or worth due to belittling or manipulation, emotional exhaustion from trying to maintain peace in a dysfunctional environment. Proverbs chapter 4 and verses 23 says, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." So we know that it's really talking about guard our minds, right? This means that we must protect ourselves from emotional and spiritual environments that cause harm. So going back to Proverbs, where it says, "Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul." So that we're not caught in this snare, we need to begin to set healthy boundaries. Sometimes it might not be so easy to realize when you need to set these boundaries. But let me give you some examples. A family member who's disrespectful to you repeatedly. Family members who manipulate, control, or gaslight you. The ones who make you feel emotionally drained or anxious around them. The family members who ignore your needs and only take from you. And the ones who create strife, gossip, or division within the family. Immediately, we need to begin to limit contact, reduce time spent with them, be firm in our decisions, and don't allow guilt to weaken our boundaries. We must refuse to engage in toxic conversations, If they gossip, manipulate, or stir up strife, we must excuse ourselves. One thing we need to do to begin to heal is understand that you are not obligated to tolerate abuse, even from family. And this is kind of what people think in the so-called black family, is that love means tolerating abuse simply because the person is family. But that is not what biblical love is. The Bible calls for love, accountability, and wisdom, not for enduring ongoing mistreatment. I don't know where the Israelites get this from, but love does not mean allowing people to mistreat, manipulate, or abuse you. Love includes correction, boundaries, and accountability. This means that real love confronts wrongdoing instead of ignoring it. Just because someone is your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your uncle, nephew, child, grandma, grandpa, this doesn't mean you have to tolerate abuse from them just because they're your family. That is a lie. The Bible shows that even close relationships must not excuse sin. This means that our loyalty to Yahuwah's truth comes before family ties. If a family member is toxic and refuses to change, we must choose righteousness over toxic loyalty. I just have a few more things to say to speak to this subject matter. If someone refuses to change, you can love them from a distance. Romans 16:17 says, "Mark them which cause division and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them." Mark them which cause division and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. And avoid them. Walking away does not mean you hate them. It means you are choosing peace and righteousness. So in closing, brotherly love is not blind tolerance of abuse. It is built on truth, correction, and righteousness. The Bible teaches that love should edify, protect, and hold one another accountable, not enabling sinful or harmful behavior. Correct when necessary, set boundaries for peace, and walk away when there is no repentance. So we must seek peace, protect righteousness, and refuse to participate in toxic cycles. Brotherly love is about justice, truth, spiritual growth, and not suffering in silence. This concludes my message today. May Yahuwah bless all who are deserving. And remember Matthew chapter 24 and verse 13. He that endures unto the end, the same shall be saved. And until my next video, Shalom.